The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across Maya's brown skin as she stood frozen in the center of the marble ballroom. Her black uniform was soaked with champagne, the expensive liquid dripping onto Italian shoes that cost more than her monthly rent. The bride's mother stood before her, chin raised in aristocratic contempt, while 200 guests watched in entertained silence. "People like you," the woman hissed loud enough for the front tables to hear, "should know their place." Maya's fingers trembled at her sides. She'd endured worse in her 26 years. Poverty, hunger, her mother's medical bills. But this public humiliation burned differently. Through her wet eyelashes, she glimpsed the man at table 1, tall, dangerous, watching her with eyes darker than midnight. Dante Romano hadn't moved since the champagne flute accidentally collided with Maya's tray, but something in his stillness made the air itself hold its breath. "Vincent," he said quietly to the man beside him. His voice barely rose above a whisper, yet every head turned. "Cancel the wedding." Maya Johnson adjusted her name tag for the 5th time as she studied her reflection in the staff bathroom mirror. The black uniform fit well enough, pressed crisp that morning in her studio apartment. Her natural coils were gathered in a neat bun, a few tendrils escaping to frame her face. She'd applied minimal makeup, enough to look professional, not enough to appear like she was trying too hard. "You're invisible," she reminded herself. "That's the whole point." The Whitmore estate sprawled across 15 acres of Connecticut countryside, and tonight it hosted the wedding reception of Penelope Whitmore and Richard Sterling. Old money marrying new money in a celebration that cost more than Maya would earn in 5 years. Elite Catering had hired 20 extra servers for the event, and Maya needed this job. Her mother's treatment didn't pay for itself. Johnson, the catering manager, a perpetually stressed woman named Sandra, rushed past with a clipboard. "You're assigned to the East Wing table's VIP section. Best behavior, minimal interaction, invisible service." "Yes, ma'am." "And Johnson," Sandra's voice dropped, "some very important people are here tonight. Don't mess this up." Maya nodded, swallowing the familiar taste of being reduced to a potential mistake. She collected her tray of champagne flutes and pushed through the service doors into the ballroom. The sight stole her breath. Cream roses cascaded from 20-foot ceilings. Gold-rimmed china set tables draped in silk. A string quartet played softly from an elevated stage, and the guests dripping in diamonds wrapped in designer labels, radiating the kind of wealth that insulated people from consequences. Maya moved through the crowd like water, offering champagne with a practiced smile that never reached her eyes. Most guests took glasses without acknowledgement, as if the flutes materialized by magic. A few nodded. One elderly woman actually said, "Thank you," which felt like finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk. Then she reached table 1. 6 men occupied the corner table slightly apart from the others. They wore tuxedos like armor, and despite their polished appearance, something about them whispered danger. Conversation seemed to curve around their table, guests unconsciously avoiding eye contact. The man at the head of the table was Y. Dante Romano looked like violence poured into an expensive suit, probably early 30s. With dark hair styled with casual precision and a jawline sharp enough to cut. But it was his eyes that made Maya's hand tremble slightly as she approached, cold, calculating, missing some essential warmth that made people fully human. Yet, when those eyes landed on her, they shifted, focused, saw. "Champagne, sir." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Thank you." His voice was deep, textured with the remnants of an Italian accent. He took the glass, and their fingers brushed for half a second. Electricity shot up Maya's arm. She jerked back slightly, professional mask slipping. His eyes narrowed fractionally, as if he'd felt it too. The man to his right, massive with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, smirked into his drink. "You're new," Dante said. "Not a question. First time at this venue." "Yes, sir." "From?" The question was too personal for a server-guest interaction, but something about his tone demanded an answer. "Brooklyn originally. Harlem now." One corner of his mouth lifted barely, but definitely there. "Long commute. Worth it for good work, sir?" He leaned back in his chair, still watching her with that unsettling intensity. "Good work." Maya hesitated. Was this a test, a game? Rich people ask trick questions sometimes, looking for ammunition to complain to management. "I do my best, sir." "I'm sure you do." He raised the champagne glass slightly, a toast to her before taking a sip. Dismissed, but somehow not diminished. Maya moved to the next table, her heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel his gaze following her across the ballroom. Don't be stupid, she told herself. Men like that don't see women like you. Not really. The reception proceeded smoothly for another hour. Toasts were made. The bride and groom had their first dance. Maya refilled glasses. Cleared plates remained invisible. Then Penelope Whitmore's mother decided to make a scene. Up close, he was taller than she'd realized, at least 6 feet 3 inches, and his presence seemed to bend the very air. Romano, Mrs. Whitmore simpered. I apologize for the disruption. This woman, Dante corrected softly, was assaulted by you. I what? No, she spilled. I saw you strike her tray. His dark eyes hadn't left Maya's face. Everyone at table 1 saw it. Shall I have them testify? The ballroom held its collective breath. Whitmore's face cycled through shock, fury, and fear in rapid succession. Romano, surely you understand that staff. Vincent. Dante finally looked away from Maya, addressing the scarred man who'd risen from table 1. Cancel the wedding. The words hung in the air like smoke. You can't. Penelope Whitmore appeared at her mother's side, wedding dress swishing. This is my wedding. Was your wedding? Dante pulled a white handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to Maya. I own the catering company, the venue, the string quartet, the florist. He smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Maya had ever seen. And as of 10 minutes ago, I own the hotel where you're spending your wedding night. Consider it canceled. On what grounds? Richard Sterling, the groom, finally found his voice. On the grounds that I can. Dante's attention returned to Maya, dismissing the bride and groom as if they were insects. Are you hurt? Maya couldn't find words. This wasn't real. Men like Dante Romano didn't defend women like her. They didn't even see women like her. I asked you a question. His voice gentled fractionally. No, she whispered. Just wet. Something flickered in his expression. Amusement maybe, or interest. Come, you need dry clothes. I need to finish my shift. Your shift is over. He placed a hand on the small of her back, proprietary and protective at once. You work for me now. What did Dante see in Maya that made him destroy an entire wedding to protect her? And what kind of world had she just stepped into? Keep watching to discover the dangerous truth behind Dante Romano's empire and why Maya Johnson might be the only person who can touch his frozen heart. Dante guided Maya through the chaos erupting in the ballroom. Penelope shrieking, Mrs. Whitmore demanding lawyers, guests whispering frantically into phones. His hand remained steady at her back, a brand of heat through her soaked uniform. They passed Sandra, whose face had gone chalk white. Romano, I can assure you this is an isolated incident. Johnson is no longer in your employ, Dante said without slowing. Send her final paycheck to my office with a bonus for hostile work environment. But sir, are we unclear? Sandra stumbled over her agreement, and then they were through the service doors into the blessedly quiet staff corridor. Maya's mind spun. She'd just lost her job. No, she'd been rescued from her job by a man who casually owned catering companies and wedding venues. What the hell just happened? Dante led her to a private elevator she hadn't known existed. His security guard, Vincent, he'd been called, appeared from nowhere to hold the door. Up close, the man was genuinely terrifying, built like a tank with cold eyes that assessed her as a potential threat. Third floor, Dante said. My private suite. Maya's survival instincts finally kicked in. I should probably just go home. Soaking wet in November. He looked at her properly for the first time since leaving the ballroom, and something in his expression made her breath catch. I'm not going to hurt you, Maya. The sound of her name in his mouth did strange things to her pulse. You know my name. I make it my business to know things. The elevator doors slid open to reveal a hallway that looked nothing like the rest of the venue. Modern, minimalist, expensive in a way that didn't need to announce itself. This way. His suite was actually a full apartment. All floor-to-ceiling windows and sleek furniture that probably cost more than her annual income. The view overlooked manicured gardens lit by subtle landscaping lights stretching into darkness. Dante shrugged out of his tuxedo jacket and draped it over a chair. The bedroom has a bathroom. Take a shower, warm up. I'll have Vincent bring appropriate clothing. I don't understand what's happening. You were humiliated by a bigoted woman at an event I was attending. He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. I corrected the situation by canceling her daughter's wedding. By establishing consequences, he offered her one of the glasses. The Whitmores have built their fortune on the backs of people they consider beneath them. It was past time someone reminded them that actions have costs. Maya didn't take the drink. And what's the cost to me? His eyes sharpened. Intelligent question. You think I want something in return? Men like you always want something. Men like me. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Tell me, Maya Johnson from Brooklyn and Harlem. What kind of man am I? Dangerous, powerful, capable of burning down worlds with a phone call, but also, and this scared her more, the kind of man who noticed when someone was being hurt and stepped in to stop it. I don't know yet, she said honestly. He set both glasses down on the marble counter. Never assume you understand someone until they show you who they are. Now go shower. We'll talk after. Maya wanted to argue to maintain some control over this insane situation, but she was freezing and sticky, and her pride had already been shredded in front of 200 people. A hot shower sounded like salvation. The bathroom was obscene. Heated floors, rainfall shower head, toiletries that probably cost more than her grocery budget. She peeled off her ruined uniform and stood underwater hot enough to turn her skin pink, washing away champagne and humiliation. When she emerged 20 minutes later, wrapped in a robe so soft it felt like sin, she found clothing laid out on the bed, designer jeans that somehow fit perfectly, a cashmere sweater in deep burgundy, underwear still in the package, even shoes, simple leather flats in exactly her size. How does he know my size? She dressed quickly and returned to the main room to find Dante at the window, phone pressed to his ear. He spoke in rapid Italian, his tone cold and authoritative. When he noticed her, he ended the call mid-sentence. Better much. She gestured at the clothing. How did you? I'm good at reading people. He picked up the drinks he'd poured earlier, offering one again. Bourbon. It'll help with the adrenaline crash. This time she accepted. The liquid burned pleasantly down her throat. You speak Italian. My family is from Sicily. 3rd-generation American, but some things carry forward. He studied her over the rim of his glass. You looked surprised earlier when I knew your name. Elite catering requires background checks for events at this level. I read every file. That's invasive. Probably. He moved closer, and Maya forced herself not to step back, but thorough. I know you've worked for them for 8 months. Exemplary record, no complaints. Before that, you were at 3 other catering companies, 2 restaurants, and a hotel. Always excellent reviews. Always professional. Her fingers tightened on the glass. You really do make it your business to know things. I know your mother has stage 3 cancer. I know you dropped out of community college to pay for her treatment. I know you live alone in a rent-controlled apartment in Harlem and sent half your paycheck to her care facility in Queens. His eyes never left hers. I know tonight wasn't the first time someone treated you as less than human because of the color of your skin or the size of your bank account, but I'm betting it was the first time someone destroyed their social standing to defend you. Maya's throat tightened. Why did I intervene? Why do you care? You don't know me. I'm nobody to you. Dante set his glass down with deliberate care. That's where you're wrong, Maya. You're not nobody. You're someone who's been fighting her whole life with dignity and grace. Someone who works 3 jobs to save her mother. Someone who didn't flinch when Penelope Whitmore's mother tried to make her feel small. He stepped closer, and the air between them charged with something electric. You're someone who interests me very much. I don't understand. I'm offering you a job. Whatever she'd expected, it wasn't that. What kind of job? Personal assistant. You'd manage my schedule, handle correspondence, coordinate with my various business interests. Legal businesses, he added with a slight smile. Before you ask, real estate, investments, hospitality. The pay is $200,000 a year, plus benefits, including full health coverage for you and your mother. Maya's knees went weak. $200,000. Her mother could have the experimental treatment her insurance wouldn't cover. She could finish school. She could breathe for the first time in years. What's the catch? Smart woman. Dante's smile widened fractionally. The catch is that you'd be working for me, Dante Romano. And while my business ventures are legal, my reputation is complicated. People will make assumptions about our relationship. Some of those assumptions will be ugly. Are they true? The assumptions. That depends on which ones you mean. Maya finished her bourbon in one swallow, needing the courage. Are you Mafia? The silence stretched long enough to hear her heartbeat. Yes, Dante said finally. My family has a legacy. I've worked to legitimize our operations. But the past doesn't wash away easily. I won't lie to you about what I am or where I come from. Will I be in danger? I would never allow anyone to hurt you. The certainty in his voice should have seemed arrogant. Instead, it felt like a vow. Why me? Maya asked. You could hire anyone. Someone with credentials, connections, experience. Because you have something I need more than credentials. What secrets is the Mafia boss hiding behind his cold exterior? And what happens when two people from completely different worlds collide? The story gets even more intense from here. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat at her small kitchen table in her studio apartment, Dante's business card in front of her, and researched until her eyes burned. What she found didn't comfort her. Dante Romano, age 32, CEO of Romano Enterprises, a multi-billion-dollar investment firm specializing in real estate development, luxury hospitality, and private security. On paper, completely legitimate. In practice, his name appeared in the margins of articles about organized crime, always as alleged or suspected, but never proven. His father, Marco Romano, had died in a car bombing when Dante was 19. His uncle had disappeared the same year. Dante had taken over the family's interests, transformed them from obviously criminal to legally gray, and built an empire that straddled both worlds. He was called the Ice King in certain circles. Ruthless, brilliant, dangerous to cross, and he'd offered her $200,000 a year to be his assistant. Her phone rang at 7 a.m., startling her from a half-doze over her laptop. Unknown number. Hello, Miss Johnson. A professional female voice. This is Dr. Chun from Meadowbrook Care Facility. I'm calling about your mother's treatment. Maya's heart stopped. Is she okay? She's fine. Better than fine, actually. I wanted to inform you that her account has been paid in full for the next 2 years, including the experimental immunotherapy treatment we discussed last month. The donor also set up a discretionary fund for any additional medical needs. Maya knew. Of course, she knew. The paperwork says anonymous benefactor, but I wanted to make sure you were aware. We'll begin the new treatment protocol on Monday if you approve. Maya's hand shook. Yes, of course. After she hung up, she stared at Dante's business card for a long time. He'd done this before she'd even decided, before she could say yes or no. He'd just saved her mother's life because he could. You deserve someone to fight for you. Her phone rang again. This time, she recognized the number. Sandra from Elite Catering. Maya, I'm so sorry about what happened. Romano was very clear that the incident was not your fault. Your final check will include a severance bonus of $5,000 and a glowing reference letter. $5,000 for one night of work ending in public humiliation. Thank you, Sandra. If you need a job in the future, I appreciate it. Maya ended the call and picked up the black business card. She dialed before she could talk herself out of it. Dante answered on the second ring. Good morning, Maya. How did you know it was me? I've been waiting for your call. A pause. Did Dr. Chin reach you? You didn't have to do that. I hadn't decided yet. I know, but your mother needed treatment, and I had the means to provide it. The two things aren't connected, aren't they? And maybe, just maybe, she could stop running on empty all the time. When do I start? She heard his sharp inhale. Monday, 9 a.m. Vincent will pick you up. I can take the subway, Maya. The way he said her name made her stomach flip. This isn't negotiable. Is everything with you going to be a command? Only the things that concern your safety. Thank you for trusting me. I don't trust you. Not yet. Good. Don't trust anyone until they earn it. After they hung up, Maya sat in her apartment as morning light filtered through her single window and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. 3 weeks later, working for Dante Romano was nothing like Maya expected. His office occupied the top floor of a glass tower in Manhattan, all modern architecture and ruthless efficiency. Her desk sat in an antechamber outside his private office, positioned so she could monitor everyone coming and going. The salary had been deposited into her account exactly as promised, along with health insurance that covered literally everything, and a company credit card for expenses. The work itself was demanding, but not impossible. Dante kept a brutal schedule, meetings starting at 7 a.m., ending well past midnight. He operated businesses across a dozen industries, and Maya quickly learned to track them all. She coordinated with lawyers, accountants, property managers, and various other executives. all of whom treated her with wary respect once they understood she had Dante's trust, and she was beginning to understand that Dante Romano's trust was a rare and valuable thing. He was professional with her, courteous, never inappropriate. But there were moments, glances that lasted too long, his hand brushing hers when passing documents, the way his voice softened when he said her name, that suggested something simmering beneath the surface. Maya tried to ignore it, tried to focus on the work, the generous salary, the fact that her mother was responding well to treatment. Then someone tried to kill him. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Maya was reviewing expense reports when Vincent appeared in her doorway, his expression tight. "We have a situation. Stay here." "What kind of?" The windows exploded. Glass shattered inward as gunfire erupted from the building across the street. Maya dropped behind her desk on instinct, hands over her head, her heart trying to escape her chest. More gunfire, shouting the acrid smell of gunpowder. Then Dante was there pulling her up, his body shielding hers as he dragged her toward the panic room she hadn't known existed behind a false wall. "Stay down." He pushed her through the door, and she stumbled into a small reinforced room lined with monitors showing security feeds. "Dante, I'll be right back." He started to close the door. She grabbed his arm. "Don't go back out there." His eyes met hers, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw real emotion there. Fear not for himself, but for her. "I have to protect my people. Don't open this door for anyone but me or Vincent." "Dante." He kissed her forehead quick and fierce. "Stay alive, Maya. That's an order." Then he was gone, and the reinforced door sealed behind him. Maya watched the monitors in horror as Dante and his security team engaged the shooters. It was over in minutes, professionally, brutally efficient. But in those minutes, Maya aged years. When the door finally opened, she launched herself at Dante without thinking, her hands frantically checking him for injuries. "I'm fine," he said, catching her wrist gently. "Maya, I'm fine. You could have been killed, but I wasn't." His thumbs stroked the inside of her wrists, probably feeling her racing pulse. "Because I have good security and a very safe panic room. This is insane. People just try to murder you. Occupational hazard." He said it so casually that rage replaced her fear. "Don't." She jerked away. "Don't act like this is normal. For me it is." "Well, it's not for me." Her voice broke. "I can't watch you walk into gunfire like it's nothing." "Then don't watch." His expression hardened. "This is my life, Maya. I told you it would be complicated. There's a difference between complicated and actively suicidal. I'm not suicidal. I'm careful. You're reckless." She stopped breathing hard and realized she was crying. "I can't lose you." The words hung between them like a confession. Dante's expression transformed, softened. He reached for her slowly, giving her time to pull away, and when she didn't, he gathered her close. Maya buried her face in his chest, feeling his heart beating strong and steady beneath her cheek. "You won't lose me," he murmured into her hair. "I promise." "You can't promise that." "I can try." His arms tightened around her. "For you, I can try." They stood like that until Maya's breathing calmed, until the adrenaline faded and left her exhausted. When she finally pulled back, Dante's dark eyes were searching her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I'm taking you home," he said. "Vincent will drive." "I can't. This isn't negotiable, Maya. Someone just attacked my building. Until I know you're safe, you're staying where I can protect you. Your building. What about my apartment? Tomorrow, we'll arrange for you to move into a secure location. Tonight, you're staying in my penthouse. Dante, please." The word was raw. Dante's penthouse was everything Maya expected and nothing she was prepared for. The entire top floor of a building he owned, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of Manhattan that made her feel like she was floating above the world. The decor was masculine but not cold, expensive without being ostentatious. And everywhere she looked she found evidence of a man more complex than his reputation suggested. Books in 3 languages. Artwork that spoke to actual taste rather than investment value. A kitchen that looked like it was actually used. "This is beautiful." She found herself at the windows, looking down at the city lights. "Thank you." He moved to a bar cart and poured 2 glasses of brandy. "Do you want to talk about what happened?" "The Morellis, that's the family that attacked you." Dante handed her a glass and settled beside her on the leather sofa. "Yes, they're old school, traditional. They see what I'm doing as a threat to their way of life." "Which is?" legitimizing our operations, moving away from the violence and corruption that defined previous generations. He took a sip of brandy. Other families might follow. The old guard can't allow that. So they're trying to kill you for being less criminal. Essentially, his laugh was bitter. Ironic, isn't it? Maya set down her brandy, her mind racing. Can't you go to the police? And tell them what? That my Mafia rivals are attacking me. I'd be incriminating myself. He shook his head. This is handled internally. Always has been. That's insane. That's the life I was born into. He stood moving to the window. I didn't choose this, Maya, but I'm trying to change it from the inside. It's slow work, dangerous work, and today you almost paid the price for my choices. Maya joined him at the window, studying his reflection in the glass. He looked older suddenly, burdened by the weight of responsibilities she couldn't fully comprehend. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now I retaliate carefully, proportionally, enough to make them think twice before targeting me again. He glanced at her. And I make sure you're protected. The Morellis know about you now. They saw Vincent evacuate you. That makes you a potential target. Ice flooded her veins. My mother. Already secured. I've moved her to a private facility with 24-hour armed security. She's safe. Relief and anger warred in Maya's chest. You didn't ask me. There wasn't time. And I wasn't willing to take chances with her life. I know I'm making decisions for you. I know that's not fair, but I can't. His voice cracked. I can't lose you, Maya. The rawness in his voice undid her. Dante, I know I have no right to feel this way. You've worked for me for 3 weeks, but you've become, he stopped, jaw working. Important. You've become important. Maya's heart hammered. Important how? He turned to face her fully, and the vulnerability in his expression stole her breath. You make me remember who I wanted to be before my father died. Before I had to become this, he gestured to himself. The expensive suit and harder edges. You see me, Maya. Not the money or the power or the threat. Just me. I see all of you, she corrected softly, including the dangerous parts. And you're still here. I'm still here. The air between them charged with electricity. Dante reached out slowly, his hand cupping her cheek with unexpected tenderness. His thumb traced the line of her jaw, and Maya's eyes fluttered closed at the contact. I want to kiss you, he said roughly. But I need you to understand what that means. If I kiss you now, I'm claiming you, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. Maya's eyes snapped open. I'm not property. No, you're infinitely more valuable. His dark eyes searched hers. But in my world, relationships are leverage, weaknesses to exploit. If you're mine, every enemy I have will try to use you against me. Then maybe this is a bad idea. His hand slid to the back of her neck, fingers threading through her natural curls. But I've stopped caring about good ideas where you're concerned. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was possession and desperation and 3 weeks of tension finally breaking. Maya gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound, deepening the kiss until she forgot how to breathe. His other arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him, and she felt his control fracturing. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. Tell me to stop, he whispered. Tell me this is moving too fast, that you need time, that I'm your boss, and this is inappropriate. Give me a reason to do the right thing. Maya's hands had somehow found their way to his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath her palms. What if I don't want you to stop? He groaned. Maya, I'm terrified, she admitted, of you, of this world, of how much I want you when I barely know you. But I'm also tired of playing it safe. Tired of being invisible. She looked up at him. You see me, Dante? Really? See me? When was the last time someone did that? Never, he guessed. Never, she confirmed. He kissed her again, softer this time, almost reverent. I see you, he murmured against her lips. Your strength, your kindness, the way you fight for people you love. I see all of it, and it's beautiful. Tears pricked Maya's eyes. Don't make promises you can't keep. I keep my promises, all of them. He pulled back enough to look at her. Stay with me tonight. Just to sleep, he added quickly. I need to know you're safe. Dante showed her to a guest room that was bigger than her entire apartment, with an attached bathroom, featuring a bathtub large enough to swim in. He provided her with clothes, one of his shirts and soft pants that had to be rolled multiple times, and left her with a gentle kiss to her forehead. Maya showered and changed, then found herself too wired to sleep. She wandered the penthouse, studying the art and books that offered glimpses into Dante Romano's private self. Classical music collection, philosophy texts, a shelf of worn paperback thrillers that seemed incongruous with his sophisticated image. She found him in his study, still dressed but jacket discarded, working at a massive desk. "Can't sleep either?" he asked without looking up. "Too much adrenaline." She entered the room, drawn to the wall of windows behind his desk. "You really can see the whole city from here. Sometimes I stand here and count the lights." Arrogant, accurate. He smiled against her mouth. "Stay with me, Maya. Not just tonight. Let me protect you, cherish you, give you everything you deserve." "That's not a relationship, Dante. That's a fairy tale." "Then let me give you a fairy tale." His eyes held hers, dark and intense and utterly sincere. "You fought alone your whole life. Let someone fight for you for once." Maya felt tears slip down her cheeks. "What if you get hurt because of me? What if the Morellis?" "Then I handle it. That's what I do, Maya. I protect the people I love." He wiped her tears with gentle thumbs. "And I love you. I know it's insane and too fast and completely illogical, but I looked at you in that ballroom 3 weeks ago, watched you endure humiliation with your head high, and something in me recognized something in you, like I'd been waiting my whole life to find you. That's destiny talking. Or maybe sometimes two people are meant to collide precisely when they both need saving." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "Save me, Maya. Be my reason to keep fighting for something better." "That's a lot of pressure." "Then let me ease it." He pulled her close, wrapping her in arms that felt like safety and danger at once. "We'll figure it out together, day by day. I'll teach you my world, and you'll teach me how to be human again." Maya buried her face in his chest, breathing in his scent, expensive cologne, and something essentially him. They stood like that until the adrenaline finally faded, until exhaustion dragged them both toward sleep. Dante led her to his bedroom, a space of dark colors and masculine comfort, and they lay together on top of the covers, fully clothed, just holding each other. "Thank you," he murmured into her hair. "For what?" "For being brave enough to see past the monster everyone else sees." "You're not a monster, Dante. Maybe not with you." He kissed the top of her head. "Sleep, Maya. I'll keep you safe." And wrapped in his arms with his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, Maya finally believed it. Maya adjusted her mother's pillow, making sure she was comfortable in the sunlit room of the private rehabilitation facility. The experimental treatment had worked. Her mother was in remission, growing stronger every day. "You look happy," her mother observed, eyes twinkling. "Really happy." "I am, Mama. It's him, isn't it? That man who visits every week with flowers." Maya smiled. Dante had insisted on meeting her mother properly, bringing fresh roses and conversation that charmed her completely. He'd never mentioned his role in saving her life, letting Maya tell that story in her own time. "Yes, it's him. He loves you. I can see it in how he looks at you." Her mother squeezed her hand like you're the sun, and he's been living in darkness. "That's dramatic, Mama." "That's truth, baby girl." She studied Maya's face. "You love him, too." The words came easier now. "I love him so much it scares me sometimes." Good love is supposed to be a little scary. Means you're risking something real. Her mother patted her hand. "He's good to you." "He's everything, Mama. Protective, generous, patient. He's teaching me Italian. I'm teaching him to cook actual food instead of just ordering from restaurants." She laughed. "Last week he burned water trying to make pasta." Her mother's laugh was music. "You deserve this happiness, Maya. You fought so hard for so long." "We both fought, Mama, and we both won." Later, Maya found Dante waiting in the facility's garden, looking at ease in casual clothes, a rare sight. He'd loosened his grip on some of his business obligations, delegating more to trusted people. The war with the Morellis had ended with a negotiated peace that shocked everyone. Dante had proven he could be ruthless when necessary, but preferred strategy to violence. "Ready?" he asked, standing as she approached. "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise." He took her hand, threading their fingers together. "Trust me. Always." The SUV took them to a brownstone in Brooklyn, and Maya's breath caught when she recognized her old neighborhood. "Dante, what?" "I bought it." He helped her out of the car. "The building, I mean. I'm converting it into affordable housing with a medical clinic on the first floor. Free treatment for residents who can't afford insurance." Maya stared at the building, then at him. "Because you told me about growing up here." About the neighbors who helped your mother when you couldn't afford medication. About the community that raised you. I can't give back your childhood, Maya, but I can make sure other kids don't have to choose between school and keeping their parents alive. Tears blurred her vision. I love you. I know. He smiled, that rare full smile that transformed his entire face. I love you too. More than I thought I was capable of loving anything. No talk of territory or threats or rivals. Not today. It's just us. He kissed her there on the Brooklyn street where she'd learned to survive in front of the building that would help others do the same. And Maya realized that sometimes fairy tales didn't end with castles and crowns. Sometimes they ended with a dangerous man choosing to be better and a strong woman choosing to believe he could. Sometimes they ended with love that transformed everything it touched. What did you think of Maya and Dante's story? Could you feel the chemistry between them? Did the wedding cancellation scene give you chills? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you love this story of a mafia boss falling for the woman who saw past his dangerous reputation, smash that like button and subscribe for more intense romance stories every week. Which moment was your favorite? When Dante canceled the wedding to defend Maya, the panic room scene during the attack, their first kiss in his penthouse, the epilogue surprise. Let me know in the comments. And if you want more mafia romance, billionaire love stories, or tales of unexpected connections, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Remember, true love doesn't care about social status, skin color, or bank accounts. It sees the heart beneath everything else. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next. 6 months after their Brooklyn revelation, Maya stood in the mirror of Dante's penthouse, adjusting the neckline of an elegant black dress that cost more than her old monthly salary. Tonight was different. Tonight she would meet Dante's family for the first time, and the weight of that reality settled heavily on her shoulders. The Romano family gathering wasn't just dinner. It was an evaluation, a test of whether she belonged in their world or if she was merely a temporary distraction for their heir. Dante appeared behind her in the mirror, immaculate in a charcoal suit that emphasized the dangerous elegance she'd fallen in love with. His hands settled on her shoulders, warm and reassuring. You look breathtaking. I look terrified. Maya's voice carried the honesty that had become their foundation. His reflection met her eyes. They'll love you. What if they don't? What if they see me as some gold digger who trapped their precious son? Then they'll be wrong, and I'll make sure they understand that. His hands slid down her arms, anchoring her. Maya, you've transformed my life in ways they can't even comprehend. You've made me want to be better, to build something worthy of the woman I love. Tonight isn't about their approval. It's about them seeing what I already know, that you're the best thing that ever happened to our family. The Romano estate sprawled across acres of pristine Long Island coastline, a testament to generations of accumulated power and influence. The mansion itself was a masterpiece of old-world architecture, all stone facades and manicured gardens that whispered of money so old it had forgotten its origins. As their SUV wound up the circular drive, Maya caught glimpses of other vehicles, expensive cars that belonged to people who moved in circles she was still learning to navigate. Vincent opened their door with his characteristic silent efficiency, and Maya felt Dante's hand find hers, steady and warm. Remember, he murmured as they approached the imposing front door, you belong here because I love you. Everything else is just details. The door opened before they could knock, revealing an elegant woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and eyes the same dark shade as Dante's. This had to be his mother, Isabella Romano, the woman who had raised a future Don while maintaining the facade of respectability that protected their empire. Maya Johnson, Isabella said, and Maya was surprised by the warmth in her voice. I've heard so much about you. Welcome to our home. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Romano. Maya's voice was steadier than she felt. Please, call me Isabella. Any woman who can make my son smile the way he has been for the past 6 months is family. She gestured them inside, where the foyer alone was larger than Maya's old apartment. Come, everyone is eager to meet you. The living room held a collection of people who looked like they'd stepped from the pages of a magazine about powerful families. Dante's uncle Carlo, a distinguished man in his 70s who oversaw the family's legitimate investments, his wife Elena, who managed their charitable foundation, and Dante's cousin Marco, who handled security operations. But it was the younger woman who caught Maya's attention, someone close to her own age with Dante's dark hair and intelligent eyes. "This is my sister, Lucia," Dante said, pride evident in his voice. "She runs our hospitality division." Lucia stepped forward with a genuine smile that immediately put Maya at ease. "So you're the woman who's had my brother walking around like he discovered gravity." I was starting to think he was broken. Maya found herself laughing despite her nerves. "He does tend to brood impressively. I've been working on that." "Good." Lucia linked their arms conspiratorially. He needed someone to remind him that life is supposed to be lived, not just survived. As the evening progressed, Maya found herself drawn into conversations that revealed the complexity of the Romano family. These weren't the cold, calculating criminals she'd expected from movies and television. They were intelligent, cultured people who happened to operate in a world where power came with shadows attached. Carlo spoke passionately about the schools they'd built in Sicily. Elena described the women's shelter network they funded across the city. Even Marco, whose role involved the darker aspects of their business, showed her pictures of his twin daughters with obvious devotion. But it was Isabella who surprised Maya most. After dinner, she found Maya alone on the terrace overlooking the Sound, the lights of Connecticut twinkling across the water. "You're wondering how we can live with ourselves?" Isabella said quietly, joining her at the railing. "How we can do good works with one hand while the other remains stained." Maya turned to face her, struck by the older woman's directness. "I'm trying to understand," she admitted. "How you reconcile the two sides." Isabella's smile was sad and knowing. "My husband, God rest his soul, used to say that we inherited our sins from previous generations, but we get to choose what we pass down to the next. Dante is trying to wash those stains away, to build something cleaner for his children to inherit. It's slow work, dangerous work, but necessary work." She studied Maya's face. "He's told me about your mother's illness, about the struggles you've faced. You understand what it means to fight for family, to do whatever it takes to protect the people you love. Sometimes that fight takes you into gray areas where right and wrong become complicated." Maya nodded slowly. "I've seen how hard he works to legitimize everything, how much it weighs on him." "He loves you," Isabella continued. "Really loves you. In a way I wasn't sure he was capable of after his father died. You've given him hope, Maya. Hope that he can build something better, that the Romano name can mean more than fear and respect. That's a precious gift." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching boats move across the dark water. "What are you afraid of?" Isabella asked gently. "That I'm not strong enough for this world," Maya admitted. "That someday the violence will touch us again and I'll break, that I'll become a liability instead of an asset." Isabella turned to face her fully. "Do you know what I see when I look at you? A woman who dropped out of school to save her mother's life. A woman who worked 3 jobs without complaint. A woman who stood up to armed attackers because she refused to lose the man she loves. Strength isn't the absence of fear, dear. It's love acting despite fear. You have more strength than you know." The weeks following the family dinner brought new challenges as Maya found herself increasingly integrated into Dante's world. She attended charity galas where she rubbed shoulders with politicians and business leaders who all seemed to know exactly who Dante was and what his family represented. She learned to navigate conversations that danced around truth, to smile politely at people whose respect was built on fear, to carry herself with the confidence that came from being under Dante's protection. But it was the smaller moments that truly transformed her understanding of their relationship. Watching Dante negotiate a settlement between rival families without a single threat being uttered. Seeing him personally deliver scholarships to students in the community where Maya had grown up. Witnessing his genuine grief when one of his employees lost a child, and his immediate action to ensure the family would never want for anything. This wasn't the cold, calculating Don she'd expected. This was a man trying to use inherited power for something approaching justice. The turning point came on a Tuesday morning when Maya was reviewing vendor contracts for their newest restaurant. Vincent appeared in her doorway with an expression she'd learned to recognize as trouble brewing. "We have a situation," he said quietly. "The Morettis are moving against the waterfront union. Dante's in meetings until 4, but this needs immediate attention." Maya's pulse quickened. The Morettis were a smaller family that had been testing boundaries since the peace with the larger Morelli clan. What kind of situation? They're threatening shop stewards who won't cooperate with their protection racket. 3 men hospitalized since yesterday. Vincent's jaw was tight. This is exactly the kind of thing Dante's been trying to eliminate. Maya made a decision that would have terrified her 6 months earlier. Set up a meeting with their leadership. Tonight. Vincent's eyebrows rose. Maya, that's not your call to make. It is if I'm representing Dante's interests. She stood, feeling the weight of the authority Dante had gradually given her. Tell them Maya Johnson wants to discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement. Make sure they understand that I speak for Dante Romano, and that violence against union members stops immediately. The meeting took place in a neutral restaurant in Little Italy, a place where old rules about respect and territory still held weight. Maya arrived with Vincent and 2 other security personnel, dressed in a power suit that Isabella had helped her select for exactly these kinds of negotiations. The Moretti representatives were exactly what she'd expected. 3 men in expensive suits who radiated the kind of casual menace that came from years of getting their way through intimidation. The leader, Anthony Moretti, was a man in his 50s with calculating eyes and a smile that never reached them. Miss Johnson, he said as she sat down. I have to admit, I'm curious why Dante Romano sends his assistant to handle family business. Maya smiled politely and placed a folder on the table between them. Mr. Romano doesn't send me anywhere, Mr. Moretti. I make my own decisions about when family business requires attention. She opened the folder, revealing photographs and financial documents. What I'm curious about is why you think terrorizing union workers is good business. The photographs showed the hospitalized shop stewards, along with detailed medical reports. The financial documents outlined exactly how much revenue the waterfront generated for all the families involved. Anthony's expression hardened. Those men chose not to cooperate with reasonable requests for security fees. Sometimes lessons need to be taught. Maya leaned back in her chair, channeling every ounce of confidence Dante had helped her develop. Let me tell you what I see, Mr. Moretti. I see a small operation trying to muscle in on territory that's been peaceful and profitable for everyone involved. I see short-term thinking that threatens long-term stability. Most importantly, I see disrespect for the agreements that keep our communities safe. She slid another document across the table. This is a counterproposal. The Romano family will guarantee the safety and continued operation of all waterfront facilities. In exchange, the Moretti family will cease all collection activities in that area and redirect their interests to the development opportunities outlined in Section 3. Anthony barely glanced at the document. And if we decline your generous offer? Maya's smile became razor-sharp. Then you'll be explaining to Dante Romano personally why you chose to ignore his representative's attempt at peaceful resolution. She stood, her security detail moving with practiced efficiency. The hospitalized workers will receive full medical compensation and job security guarantees. Any future incidents will be considered a direct challenge to Romano authority. She paused at his chair, her voice dropping to a whisper. I'm giving you the opportunity to walk away from this with dignity and new business opportunities. I suggest you take it. The call came at 3 a.m. 2 days later. Maya was instantly awake, recognizing the ringtone she'd assigned to Dante's private line. Maya, his voice was tight with controlled fury. Where are you? At home, why? Stay there. Vincent's on his way. What's wrong? The Morettis didn't take your advice. They hit 2 more union leaders tonight. Maya was already moving, throwing on clothes with one hand while holding the phone with the other. How bad? One's in critical condition. The other might not make it. Maya's blood turned to ice. Dante, I'm sorry. This is my fault. I should have. No. His voice cut through her self-recrimination. You handled it exactly right. You gave them a chance to back down with honor. They chose escalation. Now they faced the consequences. She could hear cars in the background, the sounds of men preparing for something that wouldn't end peacefully. Where are you going? To remind them why peace is preferable to war. Dante, please don't do anything that can't be undone. A pause, longer than she liked. For you, I'll try to keep it surgical. But Maya, they hurt people under my protection. That can't stand. She understood. In his world, showing weakness invited more violence. But understanding didn't make it easier to accept. Be safe. Always. I love you. I love you too. Come home to me. The line went dead, leaving Maya alone with her fears and the weight of decisions that had led to this moment. Vincent arrived 20 minutes later, his face grim. Safe house, he said without preamble. Until this is resolved, you're a target. Maya grabbed her emergency bag, something she'd learned to keep ready for exactly these situations. How many men are with him? Enough. Vincent's jaw was tight. This ends tonight, one way or another. The safe house was a penthouse apartment in Midtown, luxurious but anonymous, with security measures that made Fort Knox look casual. Maya spent the longest 6 hours of her life watching news reports and waiting for updates that never came. When her phone finally rang at dawn, it was Lucia's voice that greeted her. "It's over," she said simply. "Everyone's coming home." Relief flooded through Maya's body so powerfully she had to sit down. "Dante's okay." Bruised ego more than anything else. "Vincent says you're at the Midtown location. We'll pick you up in an hour." Maya closed her eyes, finally allowing herself to breathe. What happened to the Morettas? Let's just say they've decided to pursue business interests in Florida. Permanently. An hour later, Maya was back in Dante's arms in the penthouse that had become home. He held her like he was afraid she might disappear, his face buried in her hair. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," he murmured. "Sorry you had to worry. Sorry you had to see this side of what we do." Maya pulled back to look at him, noting the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of decisions that would follow him forever. "You protected people who couldn't protect themselves. You did what you had to do. But it cost something, didn't it? It always costs something." He touched her face gently. "The question is whether it costs too much. Whether I'm becoming the kind of man you can't love." Maya kissed him softly, tasting fear and determination and love so deep it made her chest ache. "You're becoming exactly the man I fell in love with. Someone willing to fight for what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." 3 months later, Maya stood in the same Brooklyn community center where she'd volunteered as a teenager, but now she stood at a podium addressing a room full of local leaders, business owners, and residents. The Romano Foundation, which she now helped manage, was announcing a $50 million investment in education, healthcare, and small business development for underserved communities across the city. It was the kind of good that could be accomplished when power was wielded responsibly, and Maya had never felt prouder to be part of something larger than herself. After the presentation, as she mingled with community members who remembered her from before her life changed so dramatically, she caught sight of Dante near the back of the room. He was talking quietly with Vincent, but his eyes kept finding her across the crowd. When their gazes met, he smiled with such warmth and pride that her breath caught. Later, as they drove home through the city that had shaped them both, Dante reached across the seat to take her hand. "You were incredible today," he said. "Watching you up there, seeing how naturally you command respect, I'm amazed by how far we've both come." Maya squeezed his fingers, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. "A year ago, I was invisible. Just another server trying to get through the night without making mistakes. Tonight, I helped announce plans that could change thousands of lives. It feels surreal. You were never invisible, Maya." He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "You just needed the right stage to shine on." They spent the evening on their terrace, sharing takeout from the Italian place that had become their tradition, talking about plans and dreams that seemed more possible every day. When Dante disappeared into his study and returned with a small velvet box, Maya's heart stopped entirely. "I know it's been a whirlwind year," he said, dropping to one knee beside her chair. "I know we've faced more challenges than most couples see in a lifetime. But every day with you has convinced me that we can handle whatever comes next, as long as we face it together." The ring was perfect, elegant without being ostentatious, a solitaire diamond that caught the city lights like a promise. "Maya Johnson, will you marry me? Will you build this life with me? Help me become the man I want to be, and let me love you for the rest of our lives?" "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, yes, of course yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger with hands that trembled slightly, and she realized that even Dante Romano, feared and respected by powerful people across the city, was vulnerable when it came to her answer. The wedding planning revealed just how complicated their world could be. Guest lists that required security clearances. Venue selections based on defensibility rather than aesthetics. A ceremony that needed to balance Maya's desire for intimacy with Dante's obligations to family and business partners who expected to be included. But through it all, what struck Maya most was how normal it felt, how much their relationship had become about the quiet moments between the drama, the ordinary intimacy of building a life together. They settled on a garden ceremony at the Romano estate, something that honored both tradition and their vision for the future. The guests would include everyone from federal judges to community activists, a reflection of the bridges Dante was building between his inherited world and the one they were creating together. The morning of the wedding, as Maya sat in Isabella's dressing room having her makeup done by a team of professionals, she thought about how much had changed since that night in the ballroom, when her life had transformed completely. The scared, invisible woman who had served champagne to people who looked through her had become someone who commanded rooms, who helped direct millions of dollars in charitable investments, who was trusted with decisions that affected hundreds of lives. "You look radiant," Isabella said, adjusting Maya's veil with the care of a mother. "Are you ready for this?" Maya looked at herself in the mirror, seeing not just the expensive dress and professional styling, but the confidence that had grown from being truly seen and valued. "I've been ready since the night he defended me. Everything since then has just been us figuring out how to make it work." The ceremony was everything Maya had dreamed and nothing like she'd expected. Walking down an aisle lined with white roses while 200 people stood in respect, she saw faces that had become family over the past year. Lucia, who had become the sister she'd never had. Carlo and Elena, who had welcomed her with open hearts. Community leaders from Brooklyn who had watched her grow up and now witnessed her step into a role none of them could have imagined. But when her eyes found Dante waiting at the altar, everything else faded away. He looked at her like she was every prayer he'd ever whispered, every hope he'd carried through the darkest parts of his life. The vows they exchanged were written from hearts that had been tested by violence and proven by crisis. Maya promised to stand beside him as he built something better from the ashes of what came before. Dante swore to protect not just her body but her dreams, to use his power in service of the light she brought to his world. When they kissed as husband and wife, the cheers that rose from their guests carried joy, but also relief, recognition that love had somehow found a way to bloom in soil that shouldn't have been able to sustain it. The reception was a celebration that bridged worlds in ways Maya was still learning to navigate. She danced with judges and union leaders, with Dante's business partners, and her old colleagues from elite catering who looked at her transformation with amazement. But the moment that would stay with her forever came when her mother, healthy and glowing thanks to treatments that had saved her life, pulled her aside during the dinner. "Baby girl," she said, tears shining in her eyes. "I've watched you fight for everything you wanted since you were old enough to walk. But tonight, I'm watching you claim everything you deserve. Your father would be so proud of the woman you've become." As the evening wound down and the last guests departed, Maya and Dante found themselves alone on the terrace where they'd shared so many quiet moments over the past year. The lights of the city sparkled below them, and the future stretched ahead like an unwritten book. "What are you thinking about?" Dante asked, pulling her close despite the complexity of her dress. "How impossible this all seemed a year ago. How grateful I am that you saw something in me worth fighting for." He spun her slowly in the moonlight, her dress swirling around them like something from a fairy tale. "I didn't have to see anything, Maya. I just had to pay attention. You've always been extraordinary. You just needed someone who recognized it." They swayed together in silence, processing the weight of commitments made and futures chosen. Tomorrow they would leave for their honeymoon in Tuscany, where Dante would show her the village where his family originated, where they would walk through vineyards and dream about the children they wanted to raise together. But tonight, they were simply two people who had found each other against all odds, who had chosen love despite the complications it brought to their lives. The years that followed would bring new challenges as Dante continued his work to transform his family's legacy. There would be investigations that threatened their legitimate businesses, rivals who tested their resolve, and moments when the weight of their responsibilities threatened to overwhelm them. But through it all, they would face everything together, drawing strength from a love that had been forged in crisis and proven in countless smaller moments of choice. Maya would become a power in her own right, not just as Dante's wife, but as a leader who commanded respect through intelligence, compassion, and an unshakable commitment to using privilege in service of justice. The Romano Foundation would grow into one of the most influential charitable organizations in the region, funding everything from educational scholarships to community development projects that transformed entire neighborhoods. Their children, when they came, would grow up understanding both the weight of their inheritance and the responsibility that came with power. They would learn that strength without compassion was merely brutality, that wealth without purpose was just accumulation, and that love was the force that transformed both individuals and institutions. Standing on that terrace as newlyweds, Maya and Dante couldn't see all the challenges and triumphs that awaited them, but they could feel the solid foundation they'd built together, the trust that had been tested and proven unbreakable, the love that had grown from a moment of crisis into something that would sustain them through whatever came next. Sometimes fairy tales didn't end with happily ever after. Sometimes they ended with the promise to write that happiness together, one choice at a time, one day at a time, for all the days of their lives. And in the city that had shaped them both, where power and corruption had danced together for generations, two people had found a way to choose something better, to build something worthy of the love that had brought them together against all odds. What did you think of Maya and Dante's complete journey? From the ballroom humiliation to their wedding day, could you feel how their love transformed not just themselves, but everyone around them? The second part of their story shows us that real love doesn't just change individuals. It has the power to change communities, to transform inherited darkness into chosen light. Which moment touched you most? Maya standing up to the Morettus in her first real test of power. Dante's proposal after everything they'd survived together. The wedding that united two completely different worlds. Or maybe the quiet moments on the terrace where they chose each other over and over again. Love like this reminds us that sometimes the most powerful force in any story isn't money or influence or fear. It's two people deciding that together they can build something better than anything they could create alone. If this story moved you, share it with someone who believes in the transformative power of love. And remember, in a world that often feels dark and complicated, love remains the light that shows us who we can choose to become. Thanks for following Maya and Dante's journey from beginning to end.